An utterly bizarre system where the US Congress votes on budgets and then separately has to authorize paying the bills incurred by those budgets. That's what leads the country to the debt ceiling crises that happen constantly. And a crisis is brewing right now. House Republicans don't want to pay the bills until President Biden agrees to spending cuts, even though these are budgets that were set by both parties. Joining me again is former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers. Larry, everybody decries this and says it's totally irresponsible and it's unimaginable that we won't pay our bills. But here we are again. If you were advising President Biden, what would you tell him to do?
I would advise him that it's not a viable strategy for the country to default on obligations, whether it's interest obligations or obligations to pay contractors or obligations to pay federal workers or obligations to pay Social Security benefits, that's the stuff of banana republics, and that he's not going to engage in any of that stuff. I advise him to basically insist that Congress do its job and approve the borrowing to finance the spending it has already both authorized and appropriated. I think he should be staying very strong. Will there be any cosmetic things affecting looking at future spending at some point? Maybe there will be, but fundamentally, this is not something where there should be bargaining. You can debate who will win the game of chicken. What you can't debate is that the American people will lose.
But you do have this problem where there's a bunch of people in the Republican Party who do seem like they're willing to blow the whole thing up. And it's a larger percentage than I think you dealt with during the Tea Party days when they also threatened to default. Are you worried that that there's, even if it's a 15%, 10% chance that these Republicans can hold up the process and we do have a real crisis?
I am worried, but I'm more worried about the consequences of kowtowing to terrorists or setting precedents for completely out of scope executive actions. 15 people can't stop the debt limit unless 210 other Republicans are committed to vote with them. It only takes a few responsible Republicans for the Democrats and some Republicans to raise the debt limit. And I think that's what the president should be insisting on in terms of isolating the extremists. That some in the Republican Party may bow to the demands of the extremists does not mean that the President of the United States should do that.
Larry, since I have you, let me ask you one more thing. One of the biggest surprises to me in terms of economic data that has come out recently is the IMF projection on the Russian economy. It doesn't sound like it's going to do that badly. It didn't do as badly as we had imagined last year either. What, do you think the fact that the Russian economy is not contracting that much less than it did during the 2008 financial crisis, does that show that the sanctions are not working? What conclusion do you draw?
I'm surprised by that also, Fareed. It's in part, it's that the Russians have over the years been isolating themselves from the global economy. It's in part that the sanctions have been more leaky and porous than they should have been because of exceptions granted to commercial interests in the West. It's in part because of what I think is perhaps the ultimate issue. While the United States and Europe are together and super strongly unified, and you and I and most others that we talk to every day see this conflict in very clear terms, the rest of the world, places where billions of people live, like India, for example, don't see this as clearly as we do. And that points up the difficulty of the sanctions regime in a world where not everybody is participating. I think this also suggests that we need to be very measured in any theory we develop that somehow isolating China is going to do damage to its economy, because if we can't succeed in imposing huge pain on Russia with our allies united and with the goal being draconian pain, I think that needs to make us humble about the benefits of any kind of decoupling strategy.
Larry Summers, always get smarter talking to you. Thank you so much.
Good to talk to you, Fareed.